was thinking, what is the pain? Because when I look at success, like what is success? And, health is the new success. I mean, we can talk about physical health, but I would just say overall healthy, mind, body, spirit. When am I healthy? And I'm healthy when my nervous system is regulated. When I can literally just sit in my own skin and be comfortable.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's hard for addicts, and I think it's hard for culture in general.
Hi, this is Tim Westbrook. Welcome to I Love Being Sober. We talk about life in recovery, mental health, biohacking, alternative therapies, and everything related to living a kick-ass sober life. So let's dig in. Today, I'm on I Love Being Sober with Dave Riccio. Dave is a longtime owner of Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair, co-founder of Bumper to Bumper Radio, and a man in long-term recovery. He's also known as the Automotive Therapist because of the way he builds trust and connection with people through his work and through his story. Dave is a cyclist, he's a meditator, and a business leader who's navigated personal and professional challenges with courage and grace. I'm excited to dive into his journey and what's shaped the man that he is today. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I'm glad to be here.
So we've known each other for a while, and first let's start with how we met. I want to hear your version, then I'll share my version.
All right. It's probably been 8 years, at least.
It was probably 2016.
Okay, that sounds right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's when I broke my collarbone, 2016.
Yes, I remember that day.
All right, so my recollection, I got to the ride, Arcadia Bike Club. We pedal our butt off for 15 miles, 20 miles, whatever.
Yeah.
And I show up, and I was behind you, and it just felt erratic to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like you were new to cycling.
Yeah, I was new. That was probably my third bike ride ever.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, my intuition was like, maybe pick a different spot, right? So I picked a different spot and got riding, and I think we went through the golf course, and then we came out on Northern. I was right behind you again.
Yes.
And I was like, and you weren't, the fitness wasn't quite there yet.
Right.
And so you're slowing down a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So I'm like, okay, I got to go around him. Otherwise I'm going to get dropped.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Cause I'm not that fit either. Right. If I'm not sucking on somebody's tire, I lose the draft and I'm done.
Yeah.
So I went to go around you. And when I went to go around you, something happened, something shifted. I'm not even sure what happened, honestly. Mm-hmm. Next thing I knew, I was on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then you and I had never talked, never met. And then I met you in a recovery meeting.
Yes.
And you're like, I know you from somewhere. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I know you from somewhere. I'm like, no, I really don't.
Yeah.
Because all we know each other with is with helmets on. That's how we see each other on the regular.
I recognize you by your bike.
Okay.
And your helmet.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's your version of the story? Was this my fault?
No, it wasn't your fault. You're right. It was like my third bike ride ever. And Walter Clark, who we both know, he's like, hey, let's come out on this 8 hour power, which is like a fast ride.
Oh yeah,
it's not a beginner ride. It's
not
a beginner ride.
No,
and it's my third time on a bike and in a group ride. And I was going down Northern, and you're right, I wasn't very fit, and I shifted my front gear. I downshifted my front gear, and that's what caused me to jerk. And then next thing you know, you run into me, and you go over your handlebar. I felt terrible, and you were out for quite some time. And, and the next thing I knew, you were back with a brand new bike. You didn't know it was me, though.
No, I had no idea.
You did not know it was me until we went to a recovery meeting, and there was a guy that I was his sober companion, a guy that we all know.
Yeah.
And I pulled you aside and I said, hey, I don't know if you know me, but we know each other from this bike ride, and I'm the reason you crashed. I'm the reason you broke your collarbone. So that was 2016. It was 2017 when we actually formally met.
Yeah, connected. Yeah, because you said I know you from somewhere. I'm like, no. You're like, do you ride bikes? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I know you. You're like, yeah, I know you.
Yeah. So. I definitely remembered because I was the reason why you broke your collarbone. I felt terrible.
And it's funny, that's the first time we met, but we've, kept up with each other ever since with the common interest in recovery.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Because I didn't know you were in recovery. And then when I see you at a meeting and it's like completely out of context. That's one of the things I love about being in recovery is you just don't know. Like, you don't know who's going to be in recovery. And I mean, it's just, I had a guy who works on my cars, or has done work for me on my cars. I remember I knew him. I met him through a mutual friend. He had done work for me on my cars, and then one day I'm at a meeting, and I look across and I see this guy, and I'm like, gosh, I know that guy. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, it's my car guy. Wow, okay, he's here too.
Right. Yeah, you never know who you're going to meet.
You never know. And I tell you that it gives me a sense of comfort when I see people in recovery out in the real world. Right. Wherever, and I see them, whether I'm doing yoga, I'm cycling, I'm like climbing Camelback Mountain, Piestewa Peak, I'm at LGO, I'm getting coffee. It's just like we're everywhere. Right.
Yeah, and people don't know because it's somewhat recovery is, it's a thing that people do on their own, and you know them in the meetings. Otherwise, outside of that,
Yeah, and it's like you're a friend of Bill. Wink.
Yeah,
it's like yes, that's where I know you from. Yep. So, walk me through your journey through recovery. Walk me through your story. Like, what happened? What was life like? And why did you end up getting into recovery?
Yeah, the household that I grew up in was tragic and traumatic at best.
Okay.
And so I did get a value system from my family. We certainly didn't live up to our value system, but I did get one.
Okay. And where did you grow up?
I grew up here in town. So right at Tatum and Shea. So kind of Paradise Valley-ish area. Yep. And so, I grew up in, private Christian school until I was invited to leave in the 7th grade because I was pretty unruly. I had two older brothers. I'm the youngest of three. And as the youngest of three, you got two older brothers. They're best buddies before you show up.
Right.
And then you show up and they're like, what do you want, butthead? That's what they would say to me, that kind of thing. We're close today, but back then we weren't. And but I would, looking back, you normalize it when you're a kid, but as an adult, you're like, yeah, that was kind of off, So, but I was involved in church, and I was a little bit of the black sheep in that culture there. But I met my wife at the time. I saw her in community college, and I was like, that is the girl I'm going to marry.
What made you the black sheep?
I was loud and outspoken. When I say I was invited to leave that Christian school, I was kicked out of that Christian school.
That's right. I got that.
Just personality, ADHD, before we actually had Ritalin back then, I was bouncing off the walls. So I was always in trouble. I was always kind of needing attention and affirmation and, good or bad, So, so I was a little bit unhousebroken, to put it that way.
Okay.
But then I saw, I saw my ex-wife now.
Okay.
We were married for 22 years, but when I saw her, I was like, that's the girl I want to marry. I saw her in community college.
Okay. And you knew right away?
I knew right away. Okay. I went home that day. I told my mom, I said, I saw the girl I'm going to marry today.
Okay.
Right. And so sure enough, it just kind of went that way. But I think this is the way it is. As kids, we don't know anything different. And so we're like little sponges because we can't feed ourselves. We're vulnerable and needy. We know how to poop and pee and eat. That's it. Right. So as you're growing up, you're absorbing all that energy of the household, and mine was chaotic. So you absorb all that. Okay. And now you're kind of an adult and you're going into real life, and you got this sponge full of crap,
Yeah.
And then you get into a relationship and it squeezes that sponge a little bit, and that starts to come out. So that's kind of how I ended up.
What did they say? You're on your best behavior for what, like 90 days?
Yeah, when I was, when I first get into it, 90 days.
The honeymoon stage.
The honeymoon stage.
90 days.
But now you're like, okay, this is two people and they got their own sponge story, right?
Yes.
And now you're trying to cohabitate and do life together, and she's beautiful and you're in love and all that stuff, but now you're like, oh really, and vice versa. So I wasn't housebroken, and I had such compulsive behavior in a lot of ways. And so but one day I decided I didn't like who I was, because I had two lives that I was living, and it wasn't fair to her. And for whatever reason, a switch went off at me and said, I can't live like this anymore. So my first, second, and third step were all in one shot.
Okay.
So, I mean, I had this moment where I was like, this isn't who I want to be. I went home, I got on my hands and knees and literally prayed. And I didn't really know who I was praying. I just said, hey, God, this is not who I want to be. And I can't do it. I can't seem to do anything about it. I mean, I keep trying to fix myself. No one out here in the world knows who I am. I'm just on my own. I'm trying to fix myself and correct myself so that I can, be a good partner, be a good friend, all those things. And I couldn't do it. So I said, I know it's not, I know I'm not right in where I want to be. I need help.
And how long had you been living this double life? Or these multiple personalities, anyway?
Probably the first 3 years of my marriage. So I got married at age 22.
Okay.
I met her at 19. I was married by 22. But throughout the dating and all that stuff, double life. And so yeah, and it was. I mean, she's a lovely lady. I mean, I got no complaints. Even today we're good friends.
Right.
Yeah. So that was it. And right now I'm working with a couple of sponsees who are like right in there in that step 2, and they're like, how do I the God thing? How do I even do the God thing?
Right.
And a lot of people in our culture were raised in a church or raised in something like that, and it's maybe different than higher power in recovery that we find. And so they're really battling, what does that look like? What is, finding a higher power, turning my will over, all that stuff. For me, it was like everything I've tried has not worked. And I know I absolutely don't want to be this character. So I need help. And that is the one lever I haven't tried to pull.
Okay.
God, I need help.
Okay.
And so it's kind of my belief, and it's a core belief of mine, is that if you ask God, and however you want to define God, you want to call him universe, higher power, use the acronym God is goodness on demand, whatever you want to call it, right? However you want to define God, I think if you ask, something's going to happen, because it happened for me.
Okay.
So I prayed that prayer, and within a week, I found myself in a 12-step meeting.
Okay.
And it was through a friend that I got on the phone with, and I started saying, hey, I'm going to be getting a divorce, and, things aren't going so well. He's like, what are you talking about? And he told me, hey, I'm in 12-step and I got a meeting on Monday. Do you want to go with me? So like you say, people, you have no idea. Right? No idea they're in recovery, are in recovery. And the cool thing about recovery, when you walk through the door, no one's bragging that they're at a 12-step meeting. Oh yeah, I'm at a 12-step meeting, right?
Yeah. Some people are way more vocal about it.
Right. Yeah.
But a lot of people aren't. You just don't
You don't know.
You don't know.
But at the door, no one's bragging, and it's a immediate sense of community. You might walk in a little bit holding your cards close to your chest, but once you start to realize that authenticity wins here, I don't have anything to hide. The more authentic in the community I can be, the better. That's what we're lacking is community.
Yeah, it's kind of like put your ego at the door.
Yeah, put your ego at the door.
Up.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your drug of choice?
My drug of choice.
Behavior of choice, like whatever you want to call it.
I can be compulsive about anything, but my drug of choice would be sex.
Okay.
So that is, since the time I was little, I just never could have enough.
Yeah. Do you think there's a difference between like sex or alcohol or any other substance?
Definitely.
Okay.
It's with alcohol. For me with alcohol, and I can struggle with alcohol a bit every now and then. I got to put it in check, and just say, yeah, we're just gonna, with alcohol, it's just not in my apartment. I don't need it. Right. And it takes me a couple days to get it out of my habitualness. If I'm starting to drink more than I would like. But it's like, I don't know. I think if you got maybe an eating disorder, you gotta face that thing 3 times a day, right?
Yeah, at least
3 times a day. Yeah. With alcohol,
eating disorders are
tough, right? Yeah. I don't have to have it. Alcohol I don't have to have for survival. Mm-hmm. And I think sex is somewhat at the same level. It's a creative energy, it's a connection energy in relationship, and it's just something that's gone, it's gone haywire, where it's way out of balance. But yeah, and I think sex addiction is a tough one. Mm-hmm. I think that the more people, the longer I'm around, people, for whatever reason, maybe it's written on my forehead, they'll just decide to talk to me about sex and what's going on in their life. And I'm like, I'll help out where I can, Right. But it's more common than you would think. Even it's surprising who you meet that's got a problem.
Well, yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that are alcoholics and drug addicts, and they come into the rooms of AA, and then next thing you know, they're like, seeing a hook. They're married, but then they're seeing a hooker. And it's like, how's that?
Right.
It's like trading one addiction for another addiction.
Right. And I met a lot of people in sex addiction recovery that started in AA. Right. They started there, and they took care of that. It's easy
to move from, because it's like they're just looking for relief.
Right. Relief.
So what's the solution? The solution to my pain is either you walk through it, which is really painful and really hard, or you can just numb out.
I think, and I was thinking about that yesterday. I was thinking, what is the pain? Because when I look at success, like what is success? And, health is the new success. I mean, we can talk about physical health, but I would just say overall healthy, mind, body, spirit. When am I healthy? And I'm healthy when my nervous system is regulated. When I can literally just sit in my own skin and be comfortable.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's hard for addicts, and I think it's hard for culture in general. I think we've got the fixes of the scrolling on the phone,
TikTok, social media, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, there's lots of ways to just numb out.
Yeah. Just to numb out
and not feel your feelings.
So how do I feel good in my quiet space? Can I just sit and be comfortable in my own skin? And that's where meditation really started to come in, was that, hey, I'm just going to chill out, and I was that person that says, hey, do you meditate? Oh no, my mind's so busy, I can't do it. Right. How many times have you heard that? Oh, yeah. Oh man, really? If you push through that, I mean, your mind never quiets down, but you learn how to work with it.
Right. It was funny. When I was at a Joe Dispenza event, and I don't know if you were at this one, or he shared this story. He was talking to somebody, and he said, yeah, you should go to one of my events. Mm-hmm. And they said, oh, I'm not a good meditator. I have ADHD. And he's like, really? He's like, is that your affirmation? It's like, that's good.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's good. Oh, is that your affirmation? You're not a good meditator. You have ADHD. You're saying that you can't learn anything.
But when you say that, it's the limitations, and that's the thing that really started to shift for me in the last, 5 to 10 years, is to quit looking at the limitations. Life is limitless. And those old stories that we tell ourselves, they're not only ours. I mean, they're in our DNA. They are our parents. They were our grandparents. They go way back. We just find these little stories that we tell ourselves, and we loop on them. And so it's a lot of what we, it's funny. Like you were like, hey, I went to Joe Dispenza's last weekend in LA. I was like, I was there. You were there? Yeah. So I get a lot out of that.
That's good. And I just got into the Cancun retreat.
Yeah.
I think I told you that.
Yeah.
So it's sold out within 10 minutes. And there's like, by the end of the first day, there were like 10,000 people on the waiting list.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
unbelievable. Yeah. So there's something happening there.
Yeah, something's happening. Well, I'll tell you what, when the registration opened and then we started going, and I was thinking we could just like click, apply, pay. There were like 12 pages of initials and yes, no. I mean, so it was kind of like.
That's an anxious moment.
Oh yeah. And then I got in. And then my girlfriend's over here, and she's like, she's still not in. And I'm like, she got in too. So,
yeah.
So we were good. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I lost my train of thought. I was going to go somewhere else with this.
And that's okay.
It's totally okay. So how long have you been in recovery?
22 years. 22 years since September 3rd of 2003 is when I said,
okay, this is what I was going to ask you. So did you figure out what was at the root of your behavior?
Yeah, I would say I do. Cause it's a constant, in 23 years, a sponsor told me once, he said, I've never seen anyone work the program as hard as you. And, I sat around when I was working the program like that. I beat myself up that I wasn't working the program hard enough. And that right there is it. Mm-hmm. It's the shame. There's something wrong with me. I'm defective. And that's a little voice that, believe it or not, we all have somewhere in the back of our heads at different times. Mm-hmm. I love having conversations with people. I never met anybody that I didn't see that in the conversation. I couldn't see, in the way they spoke about themselves or how they identified or, I got ADHD. Mm-hmm. They're already hanging their head like, there's something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, do I have ADHD? Yeah, probably. Or am I just a really excited, exuberant guy, that is designed to be in front of people, designed to make relationships, designed to be good at making connections. So how do you want to reframe that? Do you want to be a guy that's got something wrong and a label? I'm not saying ADHD isn't a thing. I mean, it's something we know, but, it doesn't have to be a limitation. No,
definitely not.
So it would be shame and self-hatred. That's a hard one. Because the religion I was born into, it was very harsh. It was very harsh. There was these strict rules, and all that stuff. And so I learned early on there was something wrong with me because it was like, hey, we're all born defective. There's something wrong with us. We're going to hell. Those are the messages that I got as a young boy, and they have stuck with me, all the way through life. So here I am, again, because 10 years old, how much actual processes happen up here? You're just absorbing everything, but you don't really have, as a 20-year-old or maybe a 25-year-old, some developmental stages, looking back, you go, that's kind of weird. How does an 8-year-old or a 5-year-old know how to comprehend life after death and all that stuff? And why are we jamming that down his throat? So my mom was a religious fanatic. I mean, she was harsh. There was a lot of abuse, a lot of spanking. She would quote scripture when she did it. Wow. So that's my story, but,
and you thought that was normal.
I thought that was normal.
Right. We all think it's normal. Yeah.
Yeah. When she's quoting, she would even say, oh, God told me, so now it's like, okay, so God himself, she's speaking for God. Right. Mm-hmm. And as a kid, you don't know any different.
Right.
So I did think I had a real, hey, I'm, but it's not up here where that's what's going on. It's just in the background. It's in the subconscious, or it's in, I talk a lot about shadow work. Shadow work is that's shadow. You can't see it, but it's affecting you. It's really affecting your behavior and what you do. So, but yeah, once I really got a good grasp on that, I would go to meetings and I would see it. I would see it in this guy and that guy and that guy and that guy. The same common thread. A lot of self-hatred, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of I'm not good enough, And that's kind of how we motivate in this culture is with shame. It seems like. Hopefully we're developing. Hopefully we're moving past that. Right. But it takes a minute to unwind that.
It does take a minute.
Doesn't just go away.
Right. Yeah, no, I can relate. I mean, I get this feeling right here when it's like the guilt, the shame, and it's when I make mistakes, when I do things that are not aligned with my values, and then it's just like, okay, how do we move on and how do we move past that?
Right. Well, you said like the key thing there was feeling. How do we do with feelings? When I talk about a nervous system that's regulated, how do we feel that and not doing anything with it? Just how can I sit in that? Sit in it, identify it, move through it. Because I think guilt has a point, right? If you bash up against the guardrails of what's okay for you, you're like, yeah, you kind of want a little notice. Like, ooh, I don't like that. I'm going to redirect myself, and so guilt has its place. It's just how do we let it go? Right. Like serve its purpose, move on.
I think it's good to notice if my behaviors are not aligned with my values. And one of the things I like, or I've heard that I like, is I get to feel my feelings, all of my feelings, not just the good ones.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing, being in recovery, getting to feel all my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can I can make decisions and do things differently if I want to. Because I mean, it's like the reason why like I love my behavior is because I feel the reason why I act the way that I do, the reason why I'm honest, the reason why I do the next right thing, mainly because I just want to feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, if I do that, I'm not going to like that. It's going to
haunt me. It's going to be like, yeah, no. And so that's why I'm doing the next right thing. I'm honest. I'm not being dishonest, and it helps keep me in check.
Right. So there is a point to it, right? There's a point to guilt, but then there's overactive guilt that's way beyond, and even the things that I wrestle with, about, because I'm always looking at, right, wrong, measuring, that kind of thing. And I don't think you necessarily identify that all on your own. So you need, and that's the thing about community, is that you can bounce it off your friends, people that you start to learn in recovery, that I like to see myself in other people, right? So when I see someone doing something that I can see in myself, I'm like, oh, okay.
It's one of the beautiful things about sponsoring, guys.
It is.
Seeing myself, it's like, ooh,
yeah,
that was me.
Yeah. You learn a lot. You learn a lot by sponsoring.
It's like, that was me. That used to be me. That could be me.
Yeah, I see where that still shows up.
I'm glad that's not me.
Yeah.
I mean, all the different things.
Ooh, glad I moved past that.
It's a good reminder. It's a good reminder.
It is a good reminder. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that would be the common theme though, is that self-hatred, self-loathing, whatever, And it looks different for different people how they got there, but I also think it's, again, I always reflect to it's cultural. I mean, if my mother, her abuse, when she was abusing me, she would spank me and say it was like from God, but that was out of her own shame. Like, if I didn't grow up to be this perfect child, that would reflect on her as a mother. Right. And so she doesn't want to feel her shame. So she's whipping me into shape. Right. But for me as a kid, I've always been a sensitive person. So I've always been able to, some people call it empath. I've always been to take on other emotions. So when somebody feels good in their heart, I feel it. When they feel sad, I feel it. But as a kid, so not only are you feeling the pain of the abuse, you're also feeling the pain of their shame, and so that's how it's transferred from, parent to child. It's just kind of generation to generation.
What's your relationship with your mom like today?
I had quit talking to her until she was in hospice, so okay. She was, I would say there was a heavy level of mental illness, that was really kind of undiscovered, or maybe it just progressed over the course of her life. I mean, and she's a sweet lady. I got a lot of great things from her. She loved people. I love people. She had her demons, right? They were unaddressed. Right. And I think she kind of hid out in the church with that, her demons. So there was almost a decade I didn't talk to her. When I was diagnosed, I was 27. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Okay. And so she didn't handle that well, and so that's when our relationship broke. So I didn't talk to her for, it may have been 50. It was a lot of years. Yeah. I was in a recovery meeting, and it was a tight group. We did retreats 3 times a year, and they're like, "When are you going to talk to your mom?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to do it." And one guy's like, "Listen, when my mom was in hospice and she couldn't respond to me, it was the best conversation I ever had." So I went home because that was the thing. We challenged each other, and so I went home and I planned to go to New Mexico and catch up with her in hospice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was that?
It was good. It was good. It was in hospice, they say people are kind of closer to the other side. So a little bit more open energetically. And I remember it was the first time I felt empathy for my mom, because I could see her still fighting, to be alive, or like she had something to do. And she looked great. Her skin was great. Her hair was great. Everything about her. She was only, 65, but her mind was gone. So she has some form of dementia.
Wow.
Or whatever.
I think one of the things that really helps me is there's a woman, because I forgot her name. She says everyone does the best they can with the tools they've been given. And so for me, just thinking that, like, for example, my stepmom won't talk to me. And I just remember that it's like, we're all doing the best we can with the tools that we've been given. And that, you know, when I remember that, I have empathy. And there's another guy named Don Wood. He says, if you understood the atmospheric conditions in which a person grew up, you would understand why they are the way that they are.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I just have to have love and kindness and know that, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with me, not taking things personally, one of the 4 agreements.
Right.
And I have empathy, and I feel a lot better about myself when I just, you know, I don't take things personally, and I have love and compassion for the other person.
Yeah. One of the things that helped me do that was that when someone's being harsh with me, I say to myself, they're being 10 times harder themselves on the inside.
Oh yeah.
You know, because that's what's spilling out. That's you know, that's what's coming out of it. And when I look at that, I'm like, wow, you know, so it's, you know, it doesn't mean I don't have boundaries and I'm like just going to sign up for it. Right. You know, but at least, because when I fall into judgment, sometimes I wake up and I go, man, I'm just judging everything today. So that causes, I've been doing recovery long enough, that causes me to pause and say, okay, what am I saying to myself? If I'm judging everything out here, that means I'm judging myself on the inside.
Totally.
And judgment separates us. So people want to judge, but it's like when you're face to face with somebody and you're eyeball to eyeball, judgment falls away. But if it's on a computer screen, if it's a keyboard warrior, if it's whatever it is, if I want to judge people, then, you know, it really turns me black, you know, on the inside. So staying in that judgment really, you know, I I read so many books and there was so much about, you know, really taking the time to consider that judgmental voice and see it and just try not to judge anything for a day. This is good. This is bad. You know, Michael Singer, he is Untethered Soul.
Yes.
That was the first time I read that.
Okay.
You know, did a lot of reading in early recovery.
Yeah, there's a guy named Michael Burnoff that talks about the subconscious mind, and really, it's like anytime. So when I'm judging someone, when I'm talking negatively about someone else, that's the story I'm telling my subconscious mind, and it's just not good for me. And so even like my dogs, Wayne and Betty, I love my dogs. Oh, you guys are so smart. You guys are so good. So that's the story I'm telling my subconscious mind, is that I'm smart, I'm funny, I'm attractive, I'm all the things I want to be. Right.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the judgment, that is a big shift. And the other thing too, I think, is that when I'm really critical of something, that is exactly what I don't love about myself. And that one's that's why I say, use people for mirrors. God, why is that getting me? Right. Well, it's because I don't like that about myself. So I have to, like, when I feel myself go there, and I'm a boss and I've got employees, and, you know, I can be a not nice guy. Sometimes it's my job, you know, but then sometimes it's like, no, I'm out of line here. You know, but I see where I'm going and how I'm behaving, and I try and create a culture in my business where people are allowed to speak up without, you know, like, hey, Dave, you know, you kind of stepped on me there. So anyway.
So let's talk about MS. What happened there? Tell me about that journey within your journey.
Yeah. So, you know, I've grown up always active, athletic. And, you know, I thought I was physically pretty healthy, but no. You know, I woke up one morning, woke up, took a shower, got out of the shower, got dressed, got ready for work, went to go put my keys in the ignition of the car, and I could not get the key in the ignition. You know, and MS is kind of interesting. It had been cooking along, but it never really got out of my schema, you know? In other words, I wasn't seeing where I was not performing. Okay. You know, it's just one day, you know, our neurological awareness is always changing. And that day happened to be the whammo. It's so much in the sight that you can't miss it. But I went to go put my key in the ignition. I couldn't. I literally had to grab my hand, put that thing in the ignition. Wow. And then I couldn't move the shifter, you know, so I had to grab my hand and move the shifter. And I thought to myself, and I had a headache. I thought, man, maybe I just need coffee. And I would get coffee every day on the way to work. So I stopped.
So you didn't say anything?
No, you
just kept it yourself.
Keep going. Put a little dirt in it. Keep going. Right.
Okay. That's smart. Yeah.
So you know, I would go to Circle K. I loved Circle K coffee back then, and I went to get out of the car, and I'm like, something is really wrong here. So I just closed the door and drove back home. And I didn't realize I had, the whole right side of my body was off. I couldn't use my right hand. I was biting my tongue, had a hard time walking, and it progressively got worse over the next 3 days. And I'm like, okay, I probably need to go to the doctor. So I went to the ER, and again, I still didn't quite know if there was something wrong, but I was just like, felt off. The doctor says, hey, can you touch your finger to your nose? I'm like, yeah. And they're supposed to have a poker face, but he winced.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, he's like, we're going to do a CT scan. And then there was a neurologist showing up, and it was a scary, scary time. It took a while to get back. So MS, multiple sclerosis, relapsing remitting is the most common form. That's what I have. That's 80% of people with MS. So the disease will hit you and it attacks your central nervous system, and then it'll back off. And then there's some scarring, multiple scars, multiple sclerosis that happens in your brain, and it's just some of the nerves in there.
Do you still relapse?
I probably haven't relapsed in a couple, 2-3 years. Medicine has gotten a lot better for sure. When I started out, man, I was a pin pillow. I gave myself 9 shots a week, and it didn't even work.
Wow. Okay.
It was like, I know, one of them was like intermuscular, it was like jam that thing in your thigh. Mm-hmm. And then not only that, you took it, you'd be sick for a day. You didn't have the flu for 24 hours or what felt like the flu. Man. It was terrible. Once a week. That one was terrible. And you knew it didn't work. Mm-hmm. Or you hoped it worked.
So how did that affect your mental health?
It was pretty heavy. For the first 3 months, I wasn't sure I had MS. I thought it might be dying, because that was what my mom was telling me. She was like, you don't have MS. You got something else going on. You're going to die, if you don't get this taken care of. And so she was always, that's when I quit talking to my mom. Okay. Was after that, because she wouldn't accept my diagnosis. And that was the hardest part of MS, is accepting the diagnosis. Once you get on with it, okay, you're like, this is a thing. Let's figure it out. We're going to get it done. But until then, you're still wondering, what's happening? Can I even do my job? Some people, and then when you go to look up MS and you're learning in the early days, you go to the MS Society and they're raising funds. They're not going to show people like me that are riding my bike 20 miles, really quickly on Tuesday and Thursday morning.
Right. Right. Crashing occasionally.
They're going to show the people that raise funds.
You got a new bike out of it.
I did get a new bike out of it. That was great. Yeah. I bought it and just looked at it for 6 weeks when my collarbone healed. But so it was tragic and traumatic, and I do think I look at MS and neurological diseases like that, and I think the result of trauma stored in the body. You've probably read The Body Keeps the Score. Yep. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Read that book. I remember reading that book and just thinking, there's something to all those beatings my mom gave me as a kid that did something, that broke something in me. Mm-hmm. So the ACE study. Adverse childhood experience study from like the mid-90s. Mm-hmm. It's like 10 questions. Right. Super easy and easy to fill out. But when you read that and you look at your score and then you look at some of the basic results from that, you're like, wow. If you have a score of 4 or higher, they say you're, this many 100% more likely to have an autoimmune disease. Mm-hmm. So that stuff relates, So you take it a little further. I think I read a book called, I can't think of the name of the book, but it was like a deeper dive into that and how some of that trauma as kids affects us as adults in our health. So I think it's totally a byproduct of that.
Yeah, the body keeps the score.
Mm-hmm. Body keeps the score. So, but I get on with it.
Yeah, yeah. You're obviously doing okay now. You're riding your bike and you're meditating. You're doing all of these other things. So let's talk about cycling. How'd you get into cycling?
When I was finally diagnosed with MS, like by the right doctor, and I felt like we had the right answer. Dr. Vollmer, he was the chairman of neurology at Barrows, and he was an MS specialist. And I told him, I said, the days I go to physical therapy, because I was still trying to learn to use my hand, I said, I feel a lot better. He said, yeah. He said, work out every day of your life. He goes, the drugs are what they are. They're okay.
Yeah, they're okay.
We're trying to make them better, but the best thing you can do is work out every day of your life. So I literally work out every day of my life. Okay. So I started this morning at 3:30, and I've got a routine, quiet time, do some of my step work, do some reading, and then I head to the gym. Go to the gym. If it's 3 days a week, it's the gym. 2 days a week, it's cycling. And then on the weekends, it's cycling Saturday, Sunday, because I love it.
Yeah.
You know? So that's the only time I felt better. And I feel like it, you know, I mean, you know, if you're depressed, you don't want to cycle or you don't want to exercise, you know, and but the exercise is literally the thing you have to do.
That's the thing you need.
It's the thing you need.
Right.
And with MS, believe me, you don't want to go work out. I mean, I would literally say, God, the last thing I want to do is go ride my bike right now. Mm-hmm. But I would go ride my bike. I would force myself. I have so much discipline in everything other than where I'm addicted, right? Which is crazy. I can wake up at 3:30 in the morning and go to bed at 10 o'clock at night and rinse and repeat and do it the next day. But then I still have to keep this thing in check, you know? So yeah, but exercise is a huge part because when I exercise, it gets the right chemicals going in the body. It resets my brain. It's the plumb line. If I get out of balance, go get on the bike, go pedal it out. And getting on the bike too much can be out of balance too. Mm-hmm. And go that way is like, you know, I never see Dave. He's always on the bike. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's always about, you know, finding the balance. When am I out of balance? You know, and you find that in community. People that know you. And when I say people that know you, it's the lifelong relationships. People that you're authentic with, they know everything about you. You let your hair down with them so they recognize your patterns over time. You know, one of my earliest sponsors, I mean, we're still good friends today. I mean, that's 22 years ago, mm-hmm. You know, and you know, we go to breakfast every 6 weeks and it's like, remember back in 17 and he can recognize my pattern and go, oh yeah. It kind of like, you know, sneaks up on my subconscious, if you will. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And speaking of exercising, I know, occasionally some will say, well, why don't you just relax? Why you're always working out? And here's the thing. It's like, I'm not working. I mean, yes, I'm working out to be physically fit, but I need my workouts for the emotional, spiritual, mm-hmm. Physical, mental. I need it for all the things.
Right.
If I don't work out, I work out pretty much every day. I mean, there's not many days that I don't work out.
Right.
And if I don't work out, then I just feel a lot better when I do. It keeps me, it's meditational, spiritual, keeps me grounded.
Yes.
Keeps me in a good space.
Yeah, you and I both are on that same plan.
Yeah, I mean, it works, right? I mean, either that or, you know, I'm going to end up at the bar.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, even if it's out of balance, it's still a healthier addiction than, I mean, what are the byproducts? Well, you know, I'm going to feel good about myself, you know?
Well, I'll tell you what, when I was doing Ironman, that was a little out of bounds. I mean, that was, I'm grateful that I did that. It's like a job though. Uh-huh. And, you know, you got to run when you don't want to run, swim when you don't want to swim, bike when you don't want to bike, get enough sleep, exercise, eat enough. There's just so much to it. So that was a bit excessive. And I am so glad that I did it.
Right. Had to do it once.
Yeah. I did it twice.
Oh, you did it twice? Okay. You had to do it twice.
I had to do it twice.
Like a true addict.
And I remember a girl, I did it my first year. And then, and I had a girl that I was dating, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm done with that. Uh-huh. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, I think I can beat my time. So I signed up again, and I told her that I signed up, and she looked at me, she's like, you did what? That was like the end of our relationship.
Right.
I mean, the relationship was,
this guy is too extreme for me.
It was never the same. She was not happy with me. So, yeah, if you want to stay in a relationship, you probably shouldn't continue doing Ironman.
Right. Well, with my cycling, I have a long distance relationship for 4 years now, which is coming to an end. She's going to be moving here. But, you know, I don't get my weekend rides because every other weekend I'm with her. And the last thing I want to do is like, she shows up at town. Hey, I'm going to go disappear for 4 hours on my bike. Mm-hmm.
So you didn't get her into bikes yet?
No. We'll see what happens when she gets here. Okay. We'll slowly make that transition.
Yeah. That it works well. It works. So let's see here. Let's talk about the Automotive Therapist, which I think is funny. The Automotive Therapist and Bumper to Bumper Radio, which went on to become Arizona's #1 car talk show on KTAR. What inspired you to start a radio talk show about auto repair in the first place?
That is a really long story. It was completely by accident.
Okay.
The guy that was the host on KTAR, there's been a car talk show at 11 o'clock for the last 40 years. Mm-hmm. You know, KTAR has been in this valley for 100 years. It used to be KTAR was on TV. That was think back in the day, 100 years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, so he and I didn't get along. And so essentially, he actually would badmouth me on the radio.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So out of my, going to radio relationships and saying, hey, this guy's badmouthed me on the radio, it kind of worked out that way. Do you know when I can do it better? Well, I was like, well, I do. Yeah. And that's how it happened. I mean, that's a real Reader's Digest version.
Right.
But he was literally hurting my business on the radio.
Wow.
And so I had to.
And what did he had beef with you? Like,
he had serious beef with me. Yeah.
Was there for valid reason?
Nope.
Was there like one of those people where they, not taking things personally and he's got something going on, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, throughout his career, he picked lots of enemies and people that, and that was one thing is I'm kind of this young guy up and coming, big personality and all that stuff. And I think that there's, sometimes there's an ego thing that goes on, and so he did not like me. He had an automotive network of like his approved shops from the radio and stuff like that. And I was part of that. And then I formulated something called Auto Repair Good Guys, which was a 501c3. It was getting shops together. We would fix cars for wounded warriors and single moms or single dads. And it was really could.
Yeah.
But it really challenged his kingdom. And so that's what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good for you. So the automotive therapist, why did you decide to call yourself the automotive therapist?
I didn't run that name for very long, but I mean, that's what I am. I'm literally, everyone that comes to their car is broken down. It's tragic, they got to get to work. They got kids to get to school.
Right.
And then not only that, I'm working with, I got 12 employees, right? Mm-hmm. And each one of them has their own world and everything going on. And, I'm rubbing shoulders over here to get cars fixed and talking to the customer. And, so I looked at it, I'm like, this is what I do all day long. I am a therapist.
Yes.
Whether it's helping my employee work through something or helping a customer work through something, or my own therapy is like, because
seeing yourself and other people.
Seeing myself and other people, you really have to learn to set boundaries, all that stuff, because you want to, sometimes as the boss, you got to be that guy, but at the same time, I'm a gentle guy. I just want to be everybody's buddy. So it's a delicate balance between the two, but automotive therapist, that's how that came to be.
So how has being the automotive therapist helped your recovery?
Therapy's just been in my forefront. When I think of all the, modalities, in recovery, I've left no stone unturned. So I've read all kinds of books, and I spent myself personally, I probably could say thousands of hours in therapy, from that kid that was, just out of control to, having responsibility and employee and a father now myself. Therapy was just part of life, as far as just understanding myself.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your favorite book?
I liked one that really, the first book that I read that really, this is an old author that's been gone for a long time. M. Scott Peck. Remember that guy? He wrote something called The Road Less Traveled.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
I think there's a poem like that too. Mm-hmm. But I read that book. That book really kind of started my journey, and then I read, I think I already just mentioned, I forgot it at this point. Part of having MS. We have short-term memory problems, but The Untethered Soul, I read that book. Mm-hmm. I read that book and I was like, wow, this is great. That was a game changer. First time I sat down to meditate, I had an out-of-body experience that changed my life. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I read The Surrender Experiment. That's probably my favorite book. Same author, but
yes, I thought that was amazing.
Amazing book. And then I do the audio book, and then he personally reads that one. Mm-hmm. So you get a little bit more feel for it, and I enjoy it. I've actually read the physical book, but I like the audio book. Every now and then I need to tune up and I go listen to it.
I haven't listened to that in a long time. Maybe I should go back and listen to it.
Every time you come back to a book, you're going to see something different because you have a completely different frame of reference.
Yeah. Well, it's like you're at a different time in your life, so you hear something different.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So that'd be a favorite book, though.
Tell me about meditation. When did you start meditating? I know you have ADHD, or they say you have ADHD, or you thought you had ADHD. So
yes, back in the day, that was one of my labels.
Yes, exactly. Your affirmation.
Yeah.
So tell me about meditation. When did you get? How did you get into it? And
so one of the things I did in recovery was I did this recovery retreat, and there was like 10 to 12 guys that came in and out of the group, but we got together 3 times a year. And so, and it was like 3 days of intense check-in and beating each other up with love, of course.
Yes.
But we challenged each other. Accountability. And so, but we always had a book to read or a homework assignment. And so the book was to read The Untethered Soul. For me, I was raised not to meditate because meditation was New Age. And from the denomination of Christian, I was like, New Age was bad, growing up in the 80s. So we didn't meditate. And so I read this book, and he talked a lot about meditation. He said, we're not our mind, we're not our body, we're further back, we're the observer. And it was a good book. I mean, I picked it up, I read it, and I felt a little guilty. We talked about guilt. It can be some unhealthy guilt. I felt guilty about reading it because it was a little bit outside of my upbringing.
Right.
So I read the book, and then I went to the first retreat, and I show up, and we're like, hey, we're going to meditate for 30 minutes. We've got this guided meditation, this guy with this Indian accent that sounded really smart and really spiritual. And we listened, and it was like the most peaceful thing ever. Okay. I fell asleep, and I slept for 29 minutes because 1 minute in, I was gone.
Yeah.
And so...
Was it laying down meditation?
Sitting up.
Sitting up?
I was sitting up, yeah.
Wow, okay.
So I got home after that retreat, and I said to myself, I really want to meditate. I mean, I didn't know how to meditate at all. So I sat down on my floor in my office in my house, and I sat down and I just closed my eyes, and I just said to myself, I'm not my mind, I'm not my body, I'm further back. And literally within seconds, I mean, I've been chasing this experience since. I've never had it again, but I was gifted by the universe with this experience. And I dropped into my core, and in my core, I was this ball of amazing white light. This whole time I, kicked out of school, always in trouble. ADHD is an affirmation. Right. And here I am seeing myself as this ball of white light without this flesh. And I was like, oh my God, I'm beautiful on the inside. I mean, I was literally blown away.
Wow.
And it wasn't like, my thinking mind. It was an observing mind that was having this observation of myself as this ball of brilliant white light. And, I realized that I was beautiful and I wasn't defective. There was nothing wrong with me, back to our self-hatred conversation. And so I sat there and it was complete bliss. And I was in it for a little while. And then I realized I wasn't alone. And I realized there was something else. And so if a ball of white light could turn and look, that's what I did. I turned and looked, and there was a ball of white light that was about 100 times bigger than me. And that was God. Or that was source. And so I remember coming out of that. When I came out of it, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been told not to meditate, and God's been here the whole time. I could have just done this. It literally was so impactful. It changed my whole being. And it took me 3 months to put my feet back on the ground. It was that impactful.
Okay.
So there was that experience, and that was like a metaphysical and esoteric kind of meditation. So that I would call that one kind of meditation. And I've had some other amazing experiences meditating, but nothing on that scale. But I got an app called Headspace. I don't know if you heard of this app.
Yep.
I started to get meditation practice. It's one of those deals like, oh, you've meditated for 2 days straight now. Oh, look at that. Way to go.
Right.
You meditated for 3 days straight now. And I did that for a complete year. Every day I woke up, and I would vary between 5-minute and 10-minute meditations. But he'd give you little tips, little videos. Your thoughts are kind of like clouds. They just float on by. You don't have to attach to them. You don't have to follow them. And he would say, if you're up on top of the ocean and it's really stormy, if you swim down deep, it's nice and quiet. So, I kind of learned to do that. I would listen to people like Pema Chodron. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but she would talk about meditation, and I started reading books about meditation. Really, really fell in love with it. But what that did for me was that compulsive instant reaction, or impulsive reaction, is that I was able to pause from meditation. So rather than go down a destructive path, I can pause and say, I don't want that. I'm going to feel guilt, and I'm not going to enjoy that. It's going to ruin the rest of my day. Why would I do that? But I could pause just long enough. So for my addiction, that was a big deal. Right. Was meditation. I don't know. I mean, it's the first thing I tell a sponsee. You meditate. Oh no, my mind's way too busy. Right? Mm-hmm. How many times you heard that? No, there's no way I could do that. All right. Right? And I recommend Headspace. Do some Headspace. How did you get into meditation?
Oh, man. I think just being in recovery. I've been in recovery since 2011, and I don't remember exactly, but people in the rooms of AA talked about meditation. And so my meditation started with like 1 minute or 3 minutes. And I've done things like Headspace, and there's a few other apps. And then recently when we went to that same Joe Dispenza retreat, that was the first time I'd ever done like a 2-hour meditation.
Right.
Because, I mean, are you kidding me? 2 hours? There's no way I could do a 2-hour meditation. That retreat was the very first time where I ever got to a place of complete blank.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you experienced that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, like, no thoughts. And it was so amazing to get to a place of no thoughts. I still struggle. I mean, I'm still doing the Joe Dispenza meditations. I did one this morning. I did Changing Boxes. It's a 28-minute meditation that I did. And that's a good one. And he's got a pineal gland meditation. Do you remember the pineal gland? Pineal gland is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about really getting yourself to a place of bliss.
Yes.
There was, at the 7-day Joe Dispenza retreat, there was one. So every morning the meditation started at 6 a.m. Except for the one day it started at 4 a.m.
Okay.
The 4 a.m. meditation was 5 hours long. How do you do a 5-hour long meditation?
I know, especially when you couldn't even do one when you started.
You couldn't even do 1 minute. I mean, right. So that was so meditation for me, and I do my best to meditate for at least 10 minutes every morning. It's kind of how I do it. And sometimes I'll use an app. Sometimes it'll just be quiet. Sometimes I'll listen to like a Ram Dass sitting by the fire.
So nice.
Yes. So I love it. And I don't know if I've really connected the dots to meditation being the reason why I'm able to pause when agitated or doubtful. But that's one of the best things I've learned how to do, is to not react.
Right. Yes.
And just pause and just sit. And play the tape forward. And how is this going to land? How am I going to feel on the other side of this?
Right.
If I say this thing, or if I take this action. And that helps me so much, because at the end of the day, like we talked about earlier, I just want to feel good.
I just want to feel good. And you can see into the future when you can pause. You're like,
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's how that plays out. That's like, not good.
Hold on. Like, this is what I really want to say. I really want to throw this dagger. And it never works out.
That is how, like, in my old relationship, we would have these fights, and I would come to her and I would say, hey, this maybe kind of hurt me, or like, hey, this is going on. And she always was, not always, that's not a fair word, but oftentimes was very defensive and crazy making. Right. And so, but what happened was she'd be crazy making, and then I would go crazy, and then it all became about my behavior.
Yes.
Not her, not what started the conversation. So when I started to see it, we could actually get somewhere, because, she would say, she would point it to all the things I did wrong, and say, that's great. I wish you would have said something then, but right now what we're talking about is what we're talking about. But I could stay in the conversation and not lose my shit. And then you feel, okay, maybe I'm not happy here. That's kind of what happened. And it was good for her as well. We literally talked to each other like, you were my best teacher. She's like, yeah, you were my best teacher too.
Yeah.
So, so meditation was like that. Yeah. Not having to run with that impulsive thought to throw a dagger, or, for me, I mean, there was a point in time I used to punch holes in walls. I had an anger and a rage problem, going back to my mom was a rager. So right now it's like, somebody is mad at me at traffic, I'm just waving or just go about my day. But I used to be like, I could road rage with them. Like this is a really brilliant idea. Let's fight in traffic with cars.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. There's a guy that I know of who recently passed. He got shot 4 times.
Okay.
And this is a guy. He's in recovery. I mean, I just think playing the tape forward is one of the best things you can learn how to do. For someone early in recovery, learn how to play the tape forward, learn how to meditate, learn how to just sit and pause before you take action. So this guy, he's got a huge ego, and he was in a parking lot at Home Depot, and there was another guy in another car that was like on his tail or something like that. And he decides to get out of the car and approach this guy. And he's a big guy, too.
Yeah, yeah.
And the guy in the car had a gun and shot him 4 times. It's like...
over pretty much a non-event, if he would have just gone about his way. Well, that guy's in a hurry.
Yeah. I'm sorry for that. I hope he has a better day.
Right. Yeah.
That's, Bill Goodwin, that's what he says. Man, I hope you have a better day. I hope he has a better day. I hope your day gets better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is just an easier way to respond. And I know I'm not going to get shot.
Right. Yeah, you bypass all that if you play the tape forward. Yeah. I wish I'd have learned to play the tape forward a long time ago. But, hey.
You had to go through what you had to go through.
Had to go through it. Yep. Exactly.
So let me see here. We're kind of... let me see if I have any other questions. We've gone through a lot of stuff. Psychedelics.
Oh yeah, psychedelics.
Do you think psychedelics have a place in recovery?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Tell me about your experience.
I'm one of these people in life. I just feel guided.
Okay.
Right. So nothing happens by accident for me. Right. I don't. And so psychedelics is something I would have never considered ever. Just not on my radar. I'm like, oh, those people, whatever.
Right.
Right.
And so, the hippies in the 70s, LSD.
Yeah.
It's like, and not to mention your religious upbringing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Big no. So it happened to me on our bike ride. Right. So I'm on the bike ride, and somebody on the bike ride is like, "Hey, I got something for you." Okay. Sure.
Okay.
Here you go. And what's that? Because these are microdoses.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks, I guess. Put it in my pocket.
Okay.
What am I going to do with that?
Okay.
I'm the guy who does one
like psilocybin microdose? Okay.
I don't want it, but either way, I never turned down a gift. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Right.
And so...
and when was this?
This was, 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And so then maybe like 6 weeks later, same guy. I got something for you. Okay. Here you go. And I'm like, what's this? He goes, it's like 0.6 of a gram, a little bit more of an experience. Like, thank you. So,
now, did you take the microdoses?
No, I just put them in the cabinet at home. I have zero desire to do this.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But I appreciated that he thought of me with his microdoses.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I go to my son's baseball game that night, and this dad, I didn't ask for this. He comes in, another dad. I've known this guy for years. Our sons have played baseball for years. And he comes and puts his arm around me. Hey, Dave. He says, you ever consider mushrooms? Same morning, I just got 0.6 of a gram.
Right.
And I'm like, no, Jim. I was appalled.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever consider it, but they're in my pocket.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, he goes, oh yeah, very consciousness expanding. Great, well noted. So for me, things come to me like in threes, right? So, I didn't do anything with that. And then that weekend, I have a kind of a life coach that I worked with, and we had taken a break for several months, and we got back together, and she goes, what do you want to work on? I said, I want to work on intuitional development. She goes, okay. She goes, you know what helped me with that? She goes, mushrooms. And I'm like, oh my God, it's written on my forehead.
Right.
There it is, whammo.
Right.
She goes, but I am not qualified to take you down that journey. you need to find somebody. It's not me, but yeah, mushrooms. Okay. So here I am on Instagram, and pops up in my Instagram feed. Here's someone that's could be a guide.
Okay.
So I went and met her, and I'm like, okay, I could lose my shit with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We met another time. A smart, very smart lady. I felt very connected. She was very comfortable, and she described the protocol to me. It wasn't. She's a master's in psychology and art therapy, and that was kind of her thing. Not a licensed person, but had done a lot of work herself, was obvious. Mm-hmm. And so we set it up. There's a 10-day diet leading up to it, dieta. Mm-hmm. So like anything good you don't get. No weed, no coffee, no alcohol, right. No dairy, no pork, no. But when you're going through that process, that 10-day process, what happens is whatever you need to deal with starts to come to the surface. We talk about numbing out. Numbing out keeps us from dealing with what we need to deal with. Mm-hmm. But for 10 days, you start to get agitated, irritable. You're in that place. And I feel like the veil thins out in that process. Mm-hmm. And then by the time, it was mushroom day, it was, fast all morning till time. And then she showed up and we did it. And it was the most profound experience. I mean, I can still vividly remember everything about that journey. Mm-hmm. It was 6 hours long before she, said goodbye. And she said, no cell phone, no nothing for the next 24 hours, just journal. Mm. So I journaled and journaled some more, and very profound. And then, we had meetings before, we had meetings afterwards to integrate everything that I learned. And I went over my journals with her and everything like that. So, but what that did for me was it taught me, if you want to see into your shadows and your blind spots, mushrooms will show you that. If you want to learn how to self-soothe, mushrooms will show you that. And there's different types, and my particular blend was great. It really opened up that third eye or pineal gland. Mm-hmm. I saw, it was profound. I would say it would be like a year's worth of therapy in 6 hours. Right. But not only that, when you're done, you still, 1 week in, you're still processing. 2 weeks in, you're processing more. You're still integrating for the next several months. 3 months later, I'm still thinking about that first, right. But I did that every 6 weeks for, 18 months. Mm-hmm. And I tried some other medicines, some other psychedelics, and they were all beneficial. Mm-hmm. But for me, but she was my guide. She would take me through it. It was all done with a blindfold on. So it wasn't like I'm going to go do mushrooms and it's not a party.
Right. You're not going to a concert. Yeah.
You're not going to, it's hard work.
Right.
And we're not talking about, some people microdose or 0.6 grams for a little bit more experience. This is like 6 grams of mushrooms.
Right. Like a hero's dose.
Hero's dose.
Right.
Yeah. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I trusted her. She knew what she was doing. And so, she's one of my closest friends. Mm-hmm. We've been on a lot of journeys together, and we're to the point where when we're in ceremony, I know what she's thinking. Mm-hmm. She knows what I'm thinking. We can read each other's thoughts. It's cool. Yeah. So it really turbocharged my recovery, my healing journey. Really, I think in the last journey I did it by myself, and I told her I wanted to do it by myself. I said, what I want to do, because I got together with her, I said, I want to do a journey on my own, but I don't want help. I need to learn, because you're there. Mm-hmm. You can hold my hand if I get into a bad place, but by myself, I have to hold my own hand. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think recovery sometimes is about being in that hard space and being able to take care of yourself and self-soothe and move past whatever you're working through. And so that journey was probably one of the most profound, because and it was very, and everyone has a different experience. And there's some mushrooms, it's just rainbows and unicorns and everything is lovely, depending on what it is. But this was really had to learn to self-soothe, and I came out of that one a different person. Totally changed my world.
What would you say to a person that's interested in learning more about it? There's especially people in recovery from alcohol or drugs. It's how can you treat a drug with a drug? So what would you What would you say to that? What would you say to the person that's curious?
You know, it's not. I mean, treating a drug with a drug, just like Adderall, treating a drug with a drug. You know, the nice thing about mushrooms, they're not synthetic. You know, they're a part of Mother Earth. I mean, you look at indigenous tribes and how they use medicines and stuff like that. So I think it's maybe a different drug. You know, maybe it's like drinking herbal tea. I mean, it does something for you. Everything we do changes our chemistry. So, yeah, I get that it could be scary. You know, hey, I'm a drug addict. Why am I going to touch a drug? You know, but I think in the right scenario, in a therapeutic setting, and I think that's what I had. Yeah. Was a therapeutic setting with care and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's the intention, it's the set, and it's the setting. I mean, are you eating mushrooms to go have a good time at a concert, or just to screw around, or do you? Like, it's the journaling before, it's the intention, it's the prayer, it's the meditation. It's really like, do I want to do some deeper work?
I think I would struggle to do that psilocybin recreationally. I tried it once. I didn't like it. You know, so for me, all it is work, but it's a beautiful thing because I have my journeys are, they can be really intense as I'm coming into the medicine. And, you know, and I'm like, and there's even times I look at her, I go, why do I even do this to myself? You know, and because it can be so intense, all the feelings. I mean, I really got a good understanding of my rage. I got a good understanding of my control. These things that held me back, the limitations that I could surrender. But then I'm there, and then there's a God moment that you almost always come into, where it's just total peace. And so when you go back into real life, you get to borrow from those hard moments and say, you know what, I've been through worse than this, right? You know, and you can't do anything about it, right? Like this is like I'm at the height of just discomfort, and I can't do anything about it. On the other side of that discomfort is peace, and so I know that, and I borrow from that. Like and that's the way. I think that's the way. You know, addiction or relapse or whatever is that. You know, there's kind of a build of anxiety. And it builds and builds. And at some point you think you're going to die if you don't succumb to this, a drink, right? And so you get up to here and you think you're going to explode. And then when you don't do it, you come down the other side, you know, and you're like, okay, I didn't die.
I'm okay.
And so the next time you do that, and it may be a phone call at the top to get you past it, right? But that curve, it tends to flatten out, you know? And so you're like, yeah, you know, there's tools. And I mean, when you show up, you're powerless to the addiction. But really, you learn to govern yourself through the process. But when you're at the beginning, yeah, I'm completely powerless over this. But as you get into it, no, I'm not powerless. I can make a phone call.
Yes.
You know, there's things I can do. I'm going to call Tim. You know, I'm going to go on a bike ride. I'm going to do something other than what's going to be destructive. I'm going to play the tape forward, and I don't want that. So
nice. Okay, in your personal writings, you've talked about finally learning to be true to yourself in midlife, saying the beauty of midlife is finally deciding to be me after years of trying to fit in. Can you tell us more about that realization?
Yeah. When you come to the planet, I mean, you show up, look like this, do this. You ever read The Mastery of Self? Don Miguel Ruiz Jr.
I have not read that, but I've heard about it, and it's on my list.
You show up and you're taught. You know, you show up needy because you need to be fed, right, and vulnerable because you can't do anything about it, right. So these people that feed you and take care of you and grow you up, and even the culture grows us. You know, our immediate culture being our family, but the culture grows us too. Is that we are all striving to have community and to feel welcome and to be a part of something. So somewhere along the line, we just play a role. We throw on a costume to fit in so that we're accepted, right? Because we need community. I mean, I want to feel welcome, and we are a packed animal, you know? And so somewhere along the line, whether we know it or not, we abandon our true identity to fit in, right? So we are incongruent with who we are. You know, if I was in my family the way I was raised, you know, the values that my parents placed on me, some of them fit me, some of them didn't. Right. So where I was incongruent to myself, I was trying to...
I mean, basically, you're domesticated.
Domesticated
by your parents. You're siblings, your aunts, your uncles, your coaches, your teachers.
Yeah. One of the things that I always thought to myself was, I'm not a creative person. And that's one of the things that I believe has to happen in recovery is you have to do something creative. And so that was like, I'm not creative. And that was my affirmation.
Right. That's the first thing I think when I hear that.
Yeah, I'm not creative. Yeah. And I told a guy that I work with, I said, I'm not creative. He goes, you're not creative. He goes, you built this business. You're an independent transmission shop and you've built a brand. He's like, you're not a chain with marketing and all this stuff. And you've been able to do it. He goes, that's creative. And I picked up a camera and I started taking pictures and I started to write and I started to learn my creativity and I started making decisions that more aligned with who I was and what I wanted to be. And we talk about discomfort sitting by ourselves, right? And that's where we, could act out because we're uncomfortable. But if we're not living as ourselves and we're not feeding and nurturing our soul the way it was meant to be nurtured, we're going to be uncomfortable, right? So the more in line with our values of who we are, and maybe value is not the right word, but in line with what it is we want to be. And, I always say it like this, there's who we are and there's who we think we are, right? And those are two different things. And everything in between here and here is stress. Because if I think I'm this, but I'm really this, I'm always trying to be that. And I can't be that because I'm not that. And so I'm stressed out all the time. So everything in between here is a drink.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And neither of these is wrong. I mean, so really some of the things I aspire to be are great, but I move this a little bit more into reality as I mature. Right? And at the same time I grow and I'm able to come closer. And this is maturity here. So in midlife is, okay, no, I don't want to do that. I don't like that. I'm not interested in that. Where before I would go along to get along. Right. So that may happen in a relationship or it may happen in, whatever our cultural surroundings were. I mean, I used to go hang out with people I couldn't stand and I would just do it. And I would do it because I just thought that was the right thing to do, and so, yeah, I just always want to fit in. I always want to compete. I wanted people to like me. Tell me I'm okay. Because I didn't have that growing up. I thought it was bad. I was defective. Tell me I'm okay. So I was seeking outside of me validation all the time, as opposed to just being me. And when you're just you, it's like putting out a bat signal to the universe. And guess what happens when you become you? People show up. It's a bat signal. It's just what happens,
The right people show up.
The right people show up and you're like, man, when I spend time with you, I'm fed, I'm filled, I feel better as a person. I enjoy it. So that's it, is that, man, I am like literally hanging out with somebody I want to hang out with versus hanging out with I think I should hang out with.
Well, it's like you attract what you are. And so if I come across authentically me, I'm going to attract people that are kind of more like me, which is what I like.
Yes. And it's amazing how it happens. It doesn't matter if I got this new friend, Vernon. He and I met in the airport. I sat down, getting a drink before I get on the plane. And he's next to me and we start talking. He's into photography. He's into video. I'm like, dude, you are my guy. He's this guy that has this big, gentle heart. And I'm like, this is my people. Right. So yeah, that's 8 months ago. We're hanging out and cool. we're good friends. But yeah, you attract what you are. And so I don't know if it's like a universal thing, as I say, put out the bat signal.
Right.
Become authentic and what shows up? Authentic people.
Right.
Become an a-hole, what shows up? A-holes. Who do you want to hang out with?
Right.
Well, I got to go deal with me. And then the other thing too is that that would be the kind of the last part of my recovery is self-love. Like, what is self-love? Massages and selfies. What is this self-love? Right. But really coming to the place, and I think mushrooms help me with that.
Okay.
But coming to the place where I can really see my beauty.
And how did mushrooms help you with that?
They just put you in a space where you can see it all. You can find your beauty. You can find the richness in who you are. But through those journeys, like each journey teaches you something new. In that 10 days, that mushroom is like intelligent. At least I make up in my mind. It's intelligent. It gives you what you need. So that self-love piece is the only love that will never leave you, because we have relationships, may come and go. We want to be accepted. We don't want to be rejected. So we take exception here, take exception there to fit in and to receive love and be part of that community. But when you love yourself, no matter what happens out here, that's the only love that can never be taken away from you. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I love myself. I'm fine. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with or without it. And anything beyond my own love is just a bonus.
Right.
So when you can see that as a bonus, like, great. So you're not always vowing for people like you, you know. And I've spent a lifetime of doing that. Mm-hmm. You know, you ever heard the term people pleaser?
Oh yeah.
I know you have.
Of course.
Yeah. So I go around pleasing the world, not pleasing myself. Mm-hmm. You know, and I don't mind. You know, I mean, there is part to serving. Mm-hmm. You know, I like serving people, but you know, in some ways, that's my own self-care. Mm-hmm. You know, if I get out of my own brain to serve people, I just love myself more. It feels good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I think serving people is different than people pleasing too. I mean, I don't know if there's a fine line, but it's like, am I being of service, or am I you know, letting someone cross my boundaries? I think that's kind of the key, I guess.
And I think that's the work. That's the wrestle between these dualities that we work with. Right. You know, so.
Right. Okay. So what was your rock bottom?
I think we all have more than one, I think. I think was just really, you know, I've had more than one, but early on it was really realizing I wasn't who I wanted to be. Later in life, you know, I really worked recovery, you know, back to my issue being sex. I worked recovery to save a marriage, you know, and then I have this, I spent some time in active addiction and was okay with it. And I don't think that was necessarily a bad thing. Because I had to learn to love myself at my worst place. Okay. Because even though I was in an active addiction, and at the time I didn't think it was active addiction. I thought maybe, you know, I bullshitted myself. Right. Sometimes we can do that. Yeah.
You were the last person to know.
Yeah. So I just, you know, I realized that I did it, and I loved myself through that process. So some of that self-hatred, some of that self-love was like, okay, this is where I'm at. I'm still going to choose to love me because I've never beat myself up to a better place. And when we beat ourselves up, it's only a flash in the pan. You know, it's the work underneath. But I did come to a place of self-love. But when I realized that if I didn't deal with my addiction, and I played the tape forward, it was going to be a lonely life. And it was a life that I didn't want. And I saw it straight in the, you know, oh my God. Okay. So
coming to the end of the hour, a little more than an hour.
Right.
Anything I missed? Any other questions I should have asked you?
No, not at all. I think we covered it pretty well, but yeah, it definitely is a journey. And I would say the gratitude of addiction recovery is that, you know, when my mother passed away, we talked about my mom. When my mother passed away, I had 14 guys from recovery, you know, no one knew they were from my recovery. They were just my friends. You know, it's my friend. We know each other from Bill. Yeah. You know, but yeah. So I mean, it was like, these are all people that know me. I've let my hair down with them. They know me at my worst, and they're there, and they love me, and they support me. But I have so much gratitude, and I have gratitude for the addiction, because it forced me to be real and authentic. And without that, I don't know that I would have pursued real relationships. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like multiple sclerosis. You know, I smoked a pack a day when I was diagnosed. Ooh, right? Okay. Quit smoking. MS, I look back on it, and it has actually been a beautiful thing, because it forced me to learn to take care of myself. It got me to exercise. It moved me. And so when things move us, they're good things, and you can be grateful for them, even though there's plenty of not pretty in there, right? I mean, there's days you're like, ooh, that was a tough one. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but on this side of it, you can look back with gratitude.
It's like life happens for me, not to me. just knowing that everything happens for a reason, happens exactly the way that it's supposed to. And it's like when you're going through tough things, it's not fun. And on the other side, there's always relief.
Yes.
It's my experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, Dave, how can people find you? How can they learn more about you? If they want to connect or whatever.
Yeah, Instagram is the way I connect with everybody.
Okay.
So Instagram is Dave Riccio.
Okay.
I think. I don't know if you could put it in the podcast notes.
We'll put it in the podcast notes.
Yeah, but you can find me that way.
Okay.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, Dave, it's been awesome to have you here. I really enjoyed getting to learn more about you. And
sure.
And I'm sure I'll see you on the bike soon.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Yep.
I'll see you on the next video.
Thanks so much for listening to I Love Being Sober. I hope you got something valuable from today's episode. And if you're looking for more resources on recovery, mental health, or any of the therapies we talk about, head over to camelbackrecovery.com. You can find more episodes, blog posts, and ways to connect. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep growing, and keep living a kick-ass sober life.